G'day viewers, I'm back. Now the great thing about having a workshop full of toys is that you can make toys for your kids and your grandkids. I've got a grandson turning 1 this month and I'd like to make him something special. So buckle up, come along for the ride and watch me probably mess this up. Oh yeah. The plan: aluminium tube, 3mm wall, which will be cut with this pattern 3 times around the tube. The black lines are what I'll be cutting away to leave 5 tines, and on each of the 3 middle tines I'm going to cut a 2.5mm groove at different lengths to hopefully create different resonating sounds. If only I drew this properly in the first place to make it clearer. Hang on. That's better. Not sure what grade this is. I think it's aluminium grade. I've already turned this down to final dimension, but while I'm setting up my tool post grinder, I ran into a bit of a snag. There isn't enough room on the cross slide to set this up properly. I even contemplated mounting the cutter well inside the collet, but then I realised this was just plain stupid. My usual problem solving technique is to stare at the problem for hours, sometimes days. I really didn't want to set this rotary table up on the mill. What a drama. So I kept staring in the hope of gathering up enough aging brain cells to solve the problem. And then it hit me. Really? Oh, duh. Bloody dumbass.
Dumbass.
Did you hear that? All I had to do was turn the compound. Oh yeah. The disturbing thing is that I think I had this problem once before and solved it. And I forgot. Just saying. Now I can set the cutter up where it's supposed to be. A couple of toolmaker's clamps to set the stops. And away we go. Lock and load, baby. I started out taking 1/2mm cuts, being a bit of a wuss. And then I figured this is going to take forever. So I had to take the plunge, literally. I mean, it is a 2-flute cutter and they are designed to do this, according to the thousands of machining videos I've watched. After every long cut, I disconnect the index wheel and turn the work 20 degrees. Which is 2 holes on my wheel. Here I've retracted the cutter to move to the next section. Now I'm going to repeat the pattern with this bevel cutter to get rid of the burrs. I just realised something. If you're putting a cutter into a tool post grinder, then it becomes a spindle, doesn't it? This is my 3rd attempt at making this tool, so check out my first 2 failures so you know what not to do. When I was doing the centre grooves, I was getting some drifts, so I had to give it some wedgies. Not that sort of wedgie. I think this bar will be just about wide enough for the lid. Bugger. This is a marking out technique I learnt in kindergarten. Works great. I've noticed that the piece is only holding on by 3 points, so I'm going to take it down to the diameter and flip it around and hold it on 4 jaws. I could grind these down on the belt grinder if I wanted to, but Too bloody lazy. I can't have this flinging off. Clocking G-Par in the face, he ain't that pretty at the moment anyway. This is a carbide tip cut-off blade I got from a cheap set, but hell, it comes in handy for getting into tight spots. That's better. Chucking on some homemade layout stain. Here I'm turning down to fit the inside of the tube. Nothing scientific, I just kept going until it fitted, sort of. I'm going to dome the inside of the lid, and this outside line is where I'm going to take it to. I'm going to start with a 7mm deep hole.
Took long enough, Steve-O.
Shut up or I'll send it back. This is my homemade internal dome tool. Check out the video. You newcomers have got a lot of catching up to do. Well, that's all for the lid at this stage. Now I'm going to work on the bottom that connects to the handle. And I'll be doming the inside of this as well. Nice. Sounds promising, doesn't it? What's going on? There's hardly any dinging. I tried the bigger ball bearing. I've made a bloody clunkinator. So, the only solution is to redesign it with a gap and held together with a rod threaded here. There's a join there, and screw on the top. I knew these magnets would come in handy one day. I've gotten into the habit of using the compound to form a lot of these shapes, rather than using the cross slide of a carriage wheel in unison, sort of like XYing it. This is my favourite finishing device. It's a Scotch-Brite wheel off of a mini grinder. Oh yeah, now we're dinging. Yay! I'm marking out the approximate length of the rod. The mark on the handle is how deep the hole is. Now to do some power threading. Yeah, that's not going to work. Time for a test fit. See how many more problems I can find. You can ring my bell, ring my bell. Sorry about that. Here I'm cutting glue grooves on the mating components. Less chance of it falling apart. It wouldn't be too good if the G-Sun ate the ball. By the way, I dropped the idea of a steel ball and I turned up an aluminium one. And the ding is a lot better. I've decided on rough shaping the handle before gluing. I'll just show you this neat little cutter. A friend of mine does shed clearing for deceased estates, and he come across, packets of these things. And he was kind enough to give me some and made the holder out of mild steel. Once again, I'm using the compound slide to do most of the shaping. I'm removing most of the bulk to lighten the toy without compromising the integrity. Gee, that sounds professional. Using a variety of different shaped files, it takes very little time to shape the handle, down to a 1-year-old hand size. When doing contours and curves, I like to use a leather coated stick for a bit of cushioning. Just checking this ain't gonna fly out. Bit precarious, I know. I've glued the base together and now I'm using a 60 grit rubbing block. I've finished the end of the handle, so I've put a piece of leather between the live centre and the work. And I've used super strength araldite to glue it together, including the screw and the lid. There's a noticeable join line between the handle and the base, so I've cut grooves to disguise it, and now I'm filling it with nail polish. Usually I wipe the excess off with paper, but it's bleeding into the next line, so I'm just going to blob it on, let it dry, and rub it off with emery paper. So you're probably wondering why I've got so much nail polish.
I found it on the side of the road. Honest.
Pretty. Lining out for some scratching. Windsor is such an unusual name that many people have accidentally called him Winston. Took a bit of getting used to, I must say. Even now I still slip up. I'm going to darken the engraving with aluminium black. Now the trick here is you put a few drops into a container so you don't pollute the bottle. Double dipping is so inappropriate these days and should be outlawed. Notice I'm using gloves. This stuff isn't really good for your skin apparently, according to the bottle. We must obey instructions.
I really like this shade of red, don't you?
During this entire project, I had the feeling I may forget to put the ball in before I glued it. But I didn't. Phew. It's not for food. You're hungry. Didn't you have enough cake?
Oh dear, that was loud. Uh-oh. Shake, shake. You're not meant to throw it. Shake, shake, shake.
Should have called him Bam Bam from the Flintstones. Glad I didn't buy him a phone.